Why is it that the divorce rate is so high? Right now, the divorce rate's sitting at about 50%, and it's been like this for many years. And something I want to dive into today is how relationships have changed. I'm not really going to get too much into the dating world. So if you're single, this is going to have value to you because it can help you understand potentially what a woman is looking for in the relationship. But this whole idea around men being the financial providers, that era is done. And something I want to get into today is around this whole idea around the myth of the good husband. And myself included, us men, we grew up being fed this narrative of your job is to work hard, go to school, get a high paying job, and support the family, right? And your partner, she's going to be the one that manages the kids and takes care of the home and all of this stuff. And it's a very old school, traditional, and relatively outdated model of relationships. And what we now have is we're at a point in society where most women are making more money than men. And what's happening is that this whole notion of men just getting a job, working hard, paying the bills, that's not meeting the needs anymore. And there's this whole concept of emotional intelligence as the new status symbol for men in relationships. If you're a man and you can figure out emotional intelligence and you can figure out how to provide outside of financial means, then that is what's going to dictate your level of success in the relationship. And that's what I want to dive into mostly in this video is how can we provide and support in ways outside of financial providership? Because you guys have seen it, right? You've seen it time and time again. Just because you make money doesn't mean that the relationship's going to last. Ultimately, there are multiple ways to create safety for a partner, for a relationship. There's emotional safety. There's physical safety. There's energetic safety. Right? And we're going to dive into how do we create those as men? How do we create those for our partners? Because this is the thing. I know a lot of you don't know what emotional intelligence is. You don't know how to create that level of safety. So we're going to take you through a couple of different buckets in this video. So the first thing that I want to mention is you have to understand that you're going to have very strong thoughts and beliefs around what relationships are. We interact in relationships in the ways that we were modeled growing up. So you got to remember that your baseline pattern, your baseline belief system, you're going to look at your parents and go, that is how relationships were done. So for the context of this video, I need you to see that and put it on the shelf and keep an open mind, because what's going to happen is you're going to start to be like, I don't think so. That's bullshit. That's not what your parents modeled. But you have to recognize that what your parents modeled isn't necessarily healthy. It's not necessarily what was serving the relationship. That was just your view. That was your, you got to watch that play out. And for many people, tons of dysfunction, right? 50% of the population is divorced. So it's not like what we looked up and saw was necessarily a good example of relationships. But how do we create safety for our partners? Well, let's break it up into emotional. The biggest thing, in my opinion, one of the most valuable things that you can do as a man is figure out how to provide emotional safety for your partner. And what that looks like is understanding how to meet her needs, asking her, hey, what do you need in a relationship? And then working every day to meet that, right? Maybe she needs to vent every day for 10 minutes. Maybe she just needs to be seen. But the more that you can start to orient your leadership around her nervous system, her emotional needs, that's going to create a ton of safety. She's going to feel like she can bring you her pain, bring you her challenges, bring you all of these things. But if you're closed and stonewalled and checked out on your phone and playing video games or watching shows or whatever, and she's kind of over there on her own, that's going to create disconnection. She's not going to feel safe. So one of the best things you can do as a man to steward your relationship is think about it in terms of protecting her heart, protecting her nervous system, protecting her needs. That will provide way more safety emotionally than anything that money can provide. Right? Because once you get your basic needs met financially, you have to shift your attention to emotional safety, emotional connection. This also means when you're thinking about the dynamic and the vision for the relationship, like what is it that you guys are moving towards? Another way to create safety is by signaling to her and showing to her that you're thinking about the future together, right? Women their nervous systems, they're optimizing 100% for safety. If they don't feel safe, it's a huge issue for them and a huge issue for their nervous system. So if you want to be trustable as a man, then you need to be thinking about how can I create such a strong level of safety that like she knows that I'm bulletproof as a man. Like that is way more important to them than money. I'm not saying money doesn't matter. Money 100% is important. Anybody that's been broke understands how dysregulating and how unsafe you feel when there's no financial security at all. But let's assume for a moment you have that area covered. This is what women are talking about when it comes to emotional intelligence. But the problem is nobody's explaining it. Nobody's teaching this to men. So we're all like, she wants me to be emotionally intelligent. Like, what does that mean? And in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is you being fluent in your own emotional state, being able to track, recognize, understand, process, see your own emotions, as well as recognize, track, understand, and hold space for a partner's emotions. So there's this like two-way emotional street that's happening. You're both, you're in tune with yourself and you're in tune with other. This is the definition of emotional intelligence. And when you can work with that, you can prevent arguments, you can repair after you have a fight. Like you're so in tune with yourself and you're so in tune with your partner that you're just in this flow of energy together. And that's ultimately what's going to create a lot of safety for her. So you need, in terms of action steps, what I would be recommending that you do as a man, first and foremost, is you need to learn how to regulate your own nervous system. You can't create safety if you're stressed out and reacting and defensive all the time. If your emotions are chaotic and she's having to hold those emotions, she's not going to feel safe. So joining a men's group to be able to express how you're feeling, going to a therapist, having really good friends that you can vent to, developing some sort of a meditation practice to calm down your body, to calm down your mind, slow things down. These are all things that are going to allow you to show up more calm, right? More grounded, more present. Okay, and these traits are all a part of emotional intelligence. Like this is the new currency. This is the new way of relating. If you're a man and you're having a hard time dating, right? If you can show up with, deep breath, you're calm, you're in tune with her, right? Like you're tuning to her nervous system and her needs and all of those things, then you're going to stand out. She's going to feel safer with you. And when she's safer, she's going to be more vulnerable. She's going to want to reveal her heart to you. She's going to soften. She's going to relax, right? She's going to fall in love with you. And if you're in a long-term relationship and this hasn't been your dynamic, you can actually start creating this. It's going to deepen your bond. It's going to deepen your connection together. This is the new currency of relationships. It's not about financial providership anymore, or at least not solely about that. And we're kind of in this really painful time in society right now where we don't really have that, right? We're still kind of fumbling around, trying to figure this whole thing out. I've been with my wife for 11 years. So I'm married for 3. And I learned most of the stuff later on in my relationship. I didn't have this shit figured out when I was 20. I'm 30 now. This has been a process of uncovering and learning and going deeper and understanding deeply what she wants and what women want in collective. And, I've worked with over 150 men in some capacity now and helped them out with these things because this is ultimately what women want. They want a deeply connected, emotionally intelligent man. Everything else is a bonus. If you make a bunch of money on top of that, you can take her to fancy restaurants and do fun things like that, then that's all good shit, right? That's fun. I'm into all that stuff too. I want to be able to travel and just see her light up and all that cool stuff. But that's bonus. So if you can create your own, so step 1, create that safety for yourself, create that nervous system regulation for yourself, and then bring that to her and help her and protect her through that. That is what is the number one skill that you need to learn as a man if you want to be successful in relationship. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. But emotional intelligence, make it your mission to learn how to do that, how to master it, because I believe that this is what's going to make the long-term relationships last. And, you know, the sure way to divorce is to ignore all of this that I'm talking about. Just be like, I'm providing money, babe, and then see how the relationship goes. So this is the new currency. This is how it's done. Thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you're into this kind of stuff. Like the video. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.